Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are tearing through your sources to unpack one of the most surprising financial stories in rock history.
Yeah, we're talking about the boss, Bruce Springsteen.
And if you're hearing those anthems in your head right now, Born to Run, Thunder Road, you're probably thinking a working class hero, this guy who just leaves it all on the stage for 4 hours a night.
You're probably not thinking of a corporate titan.
But the financial reality is, well, it's staggering. Based on the sources we have, Springsteen is a rock billionaire with a net worth now conservatively estimated at over $1.1 billion.
And that brings us to the central paradox, the thing we really have to get into today. How did an artist who famously skipped college, who never even learned to read music,
and who actively turned down multi-million-dollar deals from giants like Pepsi, Nike, Ford, how did that guy build an empire of this size?
He basically rejected all the traditional paths to mass market wealth.
Exactly. So our mission here is to look at the emotional engine behind this empire. We're framing this whole deep dive around the idea that the boss isn't just a musician, he's a strategic business leader.
And his core asset, the thing worth $1 billion, was his emotional integrity and his storytelling.
Right. It all comes back to that.
The core idea, and you see it running through all this material, is that empathy it's just completely underrated as a financial strategy. In the right hands, it can absolutely be worth $1 billion. It's the ultimate lesson in playing the long game.
And it started so small. The son of a bus driver from Freehold, New Jersey. Someone who, was genuinely focused on meaning before he was ever focused on money.
And that early boundary he set for himself, that became the foundation of everything.
The billion-dollar blueprint.
Let's start right there at the beginning of the strategy. With his motivation. Back in 1974, this is before Born to Run explodes, he was broke. Actually broke, struggling to pay rent.
And yet he's telling interviewers that he just wanted to matter, not that he wanted to chase the cash.
That statement right there established the value proposition for the next 50 years of his career.
And that commitment is exactly what allowed him to command that incredible price for the single biggest event that cemented his net worth.
The December 2021 sale.
The sale of his entire catalog, both publishing rights and master recordings, to Sony Music.
A $500 million transaction, $500 million, just for the catalog alone.
And that's what pushed him over the $1 billion mark.
It did.
But for listeners who might not be deep into music finance, can we just quickly clarify what he actually sold? Why is that distinction between masters and publishing so important to the final price?
Oh, it's vital. The masters are the actual original recordings, the sound itself. So every time Born to Run plays on Spotify or in a movie, a royalty from that goes to the owner of the master, which was him.
Okay, so that's one piece. What's publishing?
Publishing is the right to the underlying song, the composition, the notes, the lyrics.
So by owning both, he was essentially double dipping on every single use of his music.
Precisely. And he could command $500 million in 2021 because he had spent decades protecting those assets from dilution. He resisted the easy money.
This is where that paradox just hits you. The sources detail how he actively refused to license his most iconic songs for commercials.
He was turning down 7- and 8-figure checks.
From Pepsi, Nike, Ford, all of them. That decision alone must have cost him hundreds of millions in the mid-'80s.
It absolutely did.
So is that just pure artistic stubbornness that happened to pay off? Or was it financial genius?
I think it was long-term financial genius disguised as stubborn integrity. The short-term loss was an investment in long-term credibility.
So the artist who resisted selling out
made more money in the end than almost anyone who embraced it. Because the emotional weight of his songs never got attached to selling soda or sneakers.
He kept the meaning pure.
He maintained the core value of the asset. He has this incredible quote. He said, "Trust is earned in drops and lost in buckets." He spent 50 years earning those drops. So when the private equity and streaming markets came calling in 2021, they were buying a bulletproof asset, not just some fleeting hit.
So the lesson is really concrete here. Wealth built on trust is a far more stable asset over 50 years than wealth built on hype.
And that stability, it really started on the stage. You hear these stories from the early days, playing these 4-hour, sweaty, honest sets in tiny Jersey Shore bars.
For $50 a night.
For $50. That intensity built a fan base of, well, they weren't just fans, they were devotees for life. That's a stable, long-term market base right there.
But the business brilliance came when he went mainstream. The decision to retain full ownership of his masters and publishing rights early on. That was the key.
Very few artists managed to pull that off.
Right. It's like he was a real estate investor, acquiring prime beachfront property before anyone else knew its value.
That analogy is spot on. He wasn't working for a paycheck. He was accumulating intellectual property that would just compound in value for decades.
And his growth strategy was so interesting. He didn't diversify away from his brand.
No, he diversified within his own narrative.
That's a crucial distinction.
Yeah.
How did he pull that off? How do you amplify the brand without diluting that core message of, the working class struggle?
The prime example has to be the shift to Broadway. Springsteen on Broadway. From 2017 to 2021, it was a one-man show music, memoir, monologue, a complete repositioning of his product.
It wasn't a stadium show. It was this intimate storytelling session, and it generated over $113 million in ticket sales.
$113 million from just 236 sold-out performances. He basically repackaged his rock authenticity as high-culture theater.
And that brought in a different, more premium audience, right? People willing to pay hundreds, even thousands for a ticket.
Exactly. And beyond that, he leveraged his story into other media that felt authentic. The Renegades podcast with Barack Obama.
Which also became a best-selling book.
The Western Stars documentary, the film Blinded by the Light. It all felt like part of the same story.
So the brand equity was used to sell deeper versions of his own narrative, not to sell someone else's products. The message stays consistent.
Absolutely. Even his real estate, the 400-acre horse farm in Jersey, the homes in LA, that's all a consequence of owning his content, not the source of his wealth.
There's that quote from his manager, John Landau.
Bruce runs his career like a CEO, but never forgets he's also the janitor. He's both the IP owner and the grunt who shows up every single night.
The key takeaway seems to be that you don't have to chase every spotlight. You just need to own your stage and expand your story intelligently.
And make sure every new venture aligns with your core values.
You mentioned earlier he doesn't have the voice of Freddie Mercury or shred like Hendrix. What he has instead is this shocking level of discipline.
And that discipline never retired. I mean, we're talking about a man in his mid-70s, a billionaire, who still keeps a strict 5 a.m. routine every day.
A workout, meditation, songwriting, even on tour.
That consistency is the engine.
And that internal pressure, it translates into this radical self-editing, which speaks to his quality control.
It's almost fanatical. The sources say that during the sessions for Born in the USA, he rewrote some lyrics over 60 times.
60 times.
He'd record entire songs and then just scrap them, throw them away if they didn't feel earned or honest enough.
That's the difference between a hit and a classic, isn't it? Being willing to throw away something good to get to something honest.
Precisely. And you see this quality control most clearly in his live shows. They are marathons. Routinely 3, sometimes 4 hours.
The longest on record was, 4 hours and 6 minutes in Helsinki?
Back in 2012. And he does it with no set list, no teleprompter. He's just reading the room, taking requests.
Which means he has to have hundreds of songs ready to go at any moment.
He reportedly memorizes over 300 songs for rotation, just in case someone shouts out a deep cut from some forgotten album.
That's beyond professionalism. It sounds almost spiritual.
That is exactly how he sees it. He calls performance a sacred transaction. He feels he has to show up and give 100% every time.
He said, "You can't cheat the night. The crowd always knows."
His dedication isn't fueled by chart positions. It's fueled by a moral contract with the person who bought the ticket.
So the financial takeaway is that success that lasts isn't just about talent. It's built on a devotion that never retires and a deep respect for your audience.
We have to circle back to the biggest financial decisions he didn't make. That refusal to license his music in the mid-'80s, it wasn't just artistic vanity.
It was a principled stand. He was saying that music about working-class pain, it couldn't be used to sell products.
And for him, the music was a promise. His philosophy was art should heal before it sells, principles before profits.
And he had that razor-sharp quote about it.
Your integrity is like virginity. You only lose it once.
It's so compelling that he guarded that integrity. But the sources also show this profound struggle behind that rock-solid image.
Absolutely. And this is the vulnerability that actually deepens the connection. Despite being this public light for millions, he struggled with crippling clinical depression.
For over 30 years, right? He was in consistent therapy.
And that internal battle shaped his art and his career. It explains those moments of strategic retreat.
Like leaving the E Street Band for a decade. Or releasing a quiet acoustic album like Nebraska when everyone wanted stadium anthems.
He chose honesty over easy nostalgia every time. And that vulnerability became his greatest strength.
It produced some of his most universal work.
Think about Streets of Philadelphia in 1994, a haunting song about loneliness and AIDS that won an Oscar and a Grammy. It restored his voice as a healer, not just a rock star.
And then, of course, the Rising in 2002. After 9/11, he helped a whole nation process its grief without getting political.
He turned his personal struggle into a tool for universal connection. The truth here is that when you honor your values louder than your voice, the world listens longer.
And that sustained integrity, it led to this unique kind of influence that goes way beyond music charts. It's really remarkable to read that his songs are now taught in sociology courses at places like Harvard and NYU.
Not just as examples, as primary cultural documentation, that is influence through restraint.
Songs like Youngstown, about the steel industry's decline, or The River, they're studied as sociological records.
One professor in the sources called him a better journalist than most reporters, said he gave working-class America a soul.
Because he was chronicling their internal world, not just their external circumstance.
And his method was just. It was rooted in humility. He listened first. He wrote about real pain, foreclosure, war trauma without ever claiming to speak for people. He let their reality speak through him.
He never tried to go viral or weaponize his platform.
He just focused on writing honest songs people could cry to, fight to, and, grow up with. And by doing that, he built something bigger than a fan base. He built a cultural institution.
It really proves that real power doesn't always have to raise its voice.
Sometimes it just sings.
So if we boil this whole $1.1 billion story down, what's the final lesson?
The final lesson is that his net worth is improbable because it wasn't built on hype or shortcuts. It was forged in decades of cracks, comebacks, and all the years no one was watching. His greatest financial investment at the end of the day wasn't real estate or his catalog.
It was trust.
It was trust with his audience, with his message, and with himself.
And if you take one thought away from this deep dive today, maybe let it be Springsteen's own philosophy on longevity. He said, "The older I get, the more I realize the long haul is the real test."
He proves you don't have to be polished or perfect to be powerful. You just have to be radically honest and unbelievably consistent. You have to show up for the people who believe in your promise.
He really left us with a powerful instruction set, one that works for life just as well as it does for finance. You spend your whole life trying to learn how to let go of what you fear and hold on to what you love.
It's a financial model built entirely on meaning.
And if you've ever felt invisible or unheard, his story proves that your core integrity is enough. The real legends aren't just born. They learn how to rise again.